Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Save As Ability. It's David D'Arcangelo, and many thanks to all of our subscribers and listeners across all these platforms. We've noticed our subscribers on YouTube, we passed 2,000, so that's great if you're watching us there. And we've also seen increases on Apple and Spotify. So if you're listening to us there, we appreciate you. I want to let you know that. And if you can help us share, subscribe, and comment, all that stuff does help us continue to keep great content flowing for you. So we're back with another episode here. Today, this one is about America's most overlooked workforce, is the way I'm terming it. And really what we're talking about is the economic opportunity that disability inclusion brings, not only people with disabilities, but the larger economy and workforce as well. So that's our episode today. So we're going to jump right in. And I was reading a report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, otherwise known as the JOLTS reports or JOLTS data. And that indicates that employers across America are still reporting difficulty in filling jobs and various roles. They're looking for employees, right? So, you know what I think? There's millions of employees with disabilities that have ability, the talent, and the desire to work, and they want to do that. And so there's a mismatch there. There's all these open jobs. There's all these people with disabilities. Let's put them to work. So, what we've talked about in the past, reforming a lot of these programs, because right now, many of the government benefit programs, it's almost like a disincentive to work. We've talked about that. So the issue isn't a talent shortage in this country or not reaching the people who can contribute. Disability inclusion isn't charity. Disability inclusion, I think what I'm trying to get people to think of is it's smart, practical economic strategy here. We have all this talent that we want to bring into the workforce. We have all these jobs that need talent. So, what's stopping that matchmaking? And I think, we have some prescriptions that we're going to propose here. So decades of leading state and national disability policies is what I'm bringing here and trying to inform this dialogue of how we can get people with disabilities access to opportunities. So my perspective is from both sides, like the government perspective and, being in government systems on the local, state, and federal level. But then also I'm a disability-owned business enterprise and, private businessman. So that as well. So my assertion hasn't changed. And that's that work creates dignity, independence, and self-determination. And that work is a fundamental aspect of the American dream, right? So let's get all of these open jobs filled with people with disabilities who there's a large amount. So inclusion is about opening pathways for people with disabilities to fully participate in all aspects of life. And really one of the main aspects of life that right now is, just not meeting it is this workforce dilemma that we're talking about. Let's go to some of the data. Latest data is that 22.7% employment to population ratio among people with disabilities. Okay, if you look at that of people without disabilities, that's 65%. So 65.5% of people without disabilities. So just look at that gap there. It's actually not even a gap. It's more of a chasm. We've talked about this before, but so the labor force participation rate is one of it. That's, for people with disabilities, you're looking at 25% versus approximately 70% for non-disabled peers. So then you add in the unemployment rate and, what you're talking about then. And by the way, the data point on that is 4.8% of employed workforce of typically identified as disabled. And that's according to a Work Without Limits 2025 survey that was done. People with disabilities show higher rates of self-employment. We went over that in one of the previous episodes. The SBA did some data there. LinkedIn and Disability In did a report there. So that's that. We feel really good about this data, what we're talking about here. All right. What do all these numbers mean, I guess, is the point. Progress exists, and, we've been making some gains, and that's great, but there is still a vast untapped talent pool and barriers that, the low participation and the barriers to entry and things like that, that's really still causing a major challenge. So our workforce benefits when people with disabilities are included. So employers across healthcare, retail, logistics, manufacturing are still reporting persistent labor force challenges, back to the JOLTS data that we talked about. So there's a way to improve this situation and quickly, and that is by getting people with disabilities included. Okay. We know that many of these individuals with disabilities, from the Accenture reports, from the AAPD reports, data that we have that we feel good about, that retention rates are higher, productivity rates are higher. It promotes innovation with the reasonable accommodation process, team culture, the human aspect of it as well. So, there's real benefits to hiring these individuals with disabilities, both individually and then as a group, as we're looking at it here, as like the macro view. So I would assert that employment enhances the health, stability, and long-term independence of our Americans with disabilities. And so, what are some of the practical solutions we can do? Well, to me, it's let's modernize the hiring process, accessible job applications, being flexible with remote and hybrid work as a barrier, because transportation, we've gone over that. We've had episodes about how transportation for people with disabilities can be a real barrier to obtaining employment. Focusing on the essential job duties rather than other tasks in the job description that might otherwise screen people out. All right, that's one way to do it. We can also align ability with opportunity. We've seen that entrepreneurship is a big thing for individuals with disabilities. So we could create incentives in whether it be the tax system or the labor laws to provide for more access to opportunities for individuals with disabilities to become gig workers, to do their own thing. Flexible scheduling, adaptive technology, all of these types of things can go to bringing these people with disabilities into our marketplace and workforce. And then really the retention, because we know that as individuals age, they may start with an organization as a person not with a disability, and then they're 10 years in or more and they're aging. And then the disability, we know that disability increases with age. So how can we retain those individuals and keep them actively employed in the workforce? That's what we want to do. So now it becomes about enhancing reasonable accommodations and providing those accommodations, and just, that corporate culture or the work culture of it being accepting of the individuals with disabilities. So, we're kind of talking around it here, but to me, what I'm talking about is a mindset shift. Let's get this large untapped talent pool and then this large pool of unfilled jobs. Inclusion can lead to this competitiveness. It can lead to, it's not compliance, it's competitiveness, right? So when we align these opportunities with employers and with communities and with people with disabilities, what you see is inclusion, not as like a social factor, but inclusion as an economic driver. And guess what? When that happens, it becomes a win, win, win. A win for the person with the disability, a win for the employer, and then a win for our society as well. So again, it can be an economic engine here. So I hope this helped. But again, we have this JOLTS data that indicates there's all these open jobs. And then we got the other data that indicates there's all these people with disabilities. So let's have those two things match. We can do it. Let's modernize. It's David Darkangelo, another episode of Save His Ability. I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.